May I greet all who listen to these words that I am about to say with the supreme love of the Great Spirit. Whatever your creed, color of your skin, your gender, your belief, your religious or political persuasion, your perceived age, these are of little consequence to me. For I direct my thoughts, my words, my dialogue, my discourse, not only to your reasoning mind, but directly to your intelligence, and ultimately to your soul. I have nothing to gain. I am not a manipulator. I demand nothing of you. I only ask that you listen to what I have to say, and having done so, apply your own reasoning faculty and discernment to it. There can be little doubt, I think, amongst those with a modicum of awareness and understanding that over the course of history, man has been set upon man, brother upon brother, race upon race, creed upon creed. Conflict has seldom been absent from your world. Dictators, governments, private enterprises, corporations, individuals of all nations have from time to time created an agenda to suit their specific needs and desires. As ignorant as these may be, they have looked with admiring eyes upon other nations and peoples and sought those for themselves in order that through force they may subjugate the inhabitants of those lands for their own distorted purposes. This is still continuing today. I do not have to outline to you the conflicts that are currently underway and have resulted in the passing from your world to my world of countless thousands of souls. Not to mention the ongoing suffering that continues as I speak. There are also plans afoot to create further wars an expansion of conflict, firstly in Europe, and then throughout the wider world, pitting brother against brother, nation against nation. At the same time, you continue to be played by a relatively small number of individuals working collectively in accord, mostly secretly, to impose further suffering upon those whom they consider to be lesser than themselves, unworthy, or simply mere cannon fodder for what they consider to be their grandiose plans for your earth. Thus, you have already endured one global pandemic, as it is referred to, which, although it was nothing of the kind in terms of the way the officialdom described it or implemented it, it was nevertheless something that brought great discord and suffering to many, and continues to do so, particularly with the ongoing vaccinations that many mistakenly, through ignorance, believe will somehow protect them or save them. Further such scenarios are already in the pipeline, and countries throughout your world are signing up, some through ignorance, some through pressure from certain bodies and organizations, but all, nevertheless, signing away what is called your sovereignty, so that once another crisis, they like that term, don't they, is created and announced, it is expected that all will fall into line and follow whatever dictates are imposed upon the many by the few. The end game, of course, if you didn't already know it, was the depopulation. It is this depopulation of your world that is so key to those who are its imposers. For the few cannot control the many unless the many agree to it, or unless the many are themselves reduced to the few. I won't go into great detail, but needless to say that technology is paramount in creating a control grid implemented throughout the world by artificial intelligence that is both distant and close to you. Close in the sense that many of you have technological devices in your homes, even in your pockets or your handbags, or upon your body or within your body, that interact with this control grid. And there is a disturbing lack of understanding or awareness of how powerful the information that is beamed directly into your body, into your very DNA, and ultimately into your brain and your mind will become. It is already taking place and is designed to expand so that the entire world is at its behest. As I have said before, ignorance cannot fully triumph over truth. Darkness cannot ever be totally victorious over light. And the power of the Great Spirit of infinite consciousness and awareness, in which you are all enfolded and encompassed by virtue of the very creative force itself, cannot be destroyed or annihilated, even though some think that it can. What is occurring, though, and will continue to occur unless addressed, is that the face of your world, society itself, life itself, is changing. It is being made to change. It is being modified. It is being altered by design and intent. So you may say to me, what can be done about this? And this brings me to the point of this talk with you. Because many are waking up in your world. I'm sure those of you who are aware will acknowledge this fact, that those who were once oblivious to any such agenda, who had no desire to understand or recognize their true nature, the purpose of life, even these souls are today questioning. Something is stirring deep within them. This is largely below the surface of mainstream consciousness, but is beginning to become more apparent as what was once hidden is now becoming exposed. And the resultant awareness of the higher spiritual nature of humanity is also rising into consciousness. But my question is this: what is it that you are waking up to? When there are those who say Yes, I'm awakened. I know my true nature. I know that I am eternal. I know that I am divine, that I am spirit, that I am infinite consciousness. I know that nothing can truly harm me. Nothing can destroy me. I am one with God. This is a wonderful realization, a marvelous recognition that is essentially within the grasp of everyone, every soul upon your world and in my world. Because the recognition of one's true nature is the highest understanding, the highest wisdom, in my view, that one can attain, that one can recognize. But waking up to this realization is one thing, but it is only a partial awakening, partial realization, if one still is unaware of the other side of the coin. One cannot acknowledge one's true nature and still be in denial of what is happening in your world. Because if you still adhere to and buy in to the official narrative, then you are still being manipulated, are you not? If you have no sense of what is unfolding and what is planned to unfold by those lower entities in your world and around your world, in some of the dimensions that are very close to your own, then what have you woken up to? You have to see the whole, because if you are still allowing yourself to be manipulated, to be played by this narrative, then you are also, by default, participating in its creation. Have I not said to you many times, those of you who are familiar with my teaching, that you create the reality that you experience? Therefore, if your thoughts, your intellect, your mind, your understanding is allied to, if it is aligned to a false narrative, a narrative designed to trap you, to snare you, to keep you locked in ignorance, and you choose not to look at it, you choose to keep your head buried in the sand, then you are actively assisting that false narrative. You are creating it because your mind will create what it believes. This is how those that have this knowledge of how reality appears can trick you into following their mandates, adhering to their man-made laws and tenets, and actively creating what they wish to occur. They can do nothing without you. When awakening truly occurs, it has to be whole, not partial. One has to look not only at the daylight, but also at the darkness. One has to be aware not only of truth, but of ignorance. not only of freedom, but of captivity, not only of joy, but of sorrow, not only of happiness, but also of suffering. One cannot have all of the fruits of wisdom on the one hand and be oblivious to what lies on the other. So my question to you is, and I repeat, what are you waking up to? If you say, I am awake, I am enlightened, I understand my true nature, what are you also aware of a material nature? I often hear, well-meaning, spiritually aware individuals who earnestly try to live their lives in accordance with higher ideals and purposes, try to be good people, good souls, act kindly and in love. And when one even mentions to them that there is a darker element at work being woven into the collective human consciousness, one hears them say, that is nothing to do with me. The truth will out. All is meant to be, and all will be as the great Creator determines it. I understand that view, but it negates the fact that you are all the Great Spirit. You are all infinite consciousness, and therefore you are all creators. You are active participants in creation. Do not think that the deity you call God is going to intervene, is going to somehow prevent what is unfolding in your world and around your world. Because if it is the will of the majority, then that is the reality that will form. Yes, you may choose and create your own personal reality, but that does not free you from the responsibility that you have to your greater self, to all of creation. Some in your world like to speak of personal responsibility as if it were yours alone, only to apply to you, to your happiness, to your future journey, to your pathway. But because life is one, all is connected. What happens to others has an impact upon you just as much as what happens to you has an impact upon others. So be true to yourself and ask yourself, if I wake up, if I am awake, if I am aware, what am I truly awake to? What am I truly aware of? And do not be afraid sometimes to look into the darkness, into the cesspit. You are ultimately safe because the divine cannot be impacted in its purity. Nothing can be added to you or taken from you. But you have a responsibility that extends beyond whatever periphery you think applies to you. In the true nature of life, there are no peripheries, there are no edges, there are no boundaries. All is one. Wake up by all means, but wake up to the total, to the whole, to the light and dark, the good and the bad, the high and the low, the positive and the negative. See it all, understand it all, and address it accordingly. If not now, then when? May the love of the divine be with you. We will speak again.